Well, hey Dwayne, how are
Hey
you
Chris,
today?
good man, how are you?
Good, good. So you're running like one of the better well-known shops in the Chattanooga area,
I
huh?
like to think so. We were there's a lot of people claiming to be the first, hemp store, and there were a couple of stores in Chattanooga selling CBD and hemp products prior to us opening, but we were the first only CBD hemp product store.
Yeah, I thought that was a real ballsy move. I was kind of scared for you when that happened because all that stuff out in Memphis with the Candy Crush and all that was
Yeah,
going
man,
on.
it was Williamson County. It was all or Rutherford County. I think it's really, yeah, Rutherford County. The Candy Crush. That happened right after we had opened, and it got real scary for a minute. Rumors were flying everywhere about what was going on and what was happening, and I actually considered myself to be a little proactive. And immediately after that happened, I went and spoke with Chief Roddy, and said, "Hey, we're here. We're operating. We're open. Come visit us." And I think within 2 to 3 days, he had an officer in our store, on a friendly visit and just checking us out, seeing what we were doing, because it was very, very new to them.
Yeah.
As well. It was as new to them as it was to as many of our customers. So
What do they say when they see the flower?
so when we first opened, it took us a little while before we started carrying any flour, and
Yeah.
so we didn't have that out displayed so much like we do now. But funny story, we were ordering a bunch of flour out of Colorado, about 60 pounds to be exact.
Yeah.
And it came in 3 packages, 20-pound increments, and we got 2 of them landed safe and sound, and 1 was held up. And we were tracking it and couldn't figure out what the holdup was. And then a day or so later, about 12 undercover, plainclothes police officers came in our store, one as a postal service person, and delivered our mail.
Wow.
And it was set up just like a traditional raid, made a sign for the package, and everything. Super friendly. Couldn't have, definitely don't have a negative thing to say about the experience at all. They came in with warrants in hand. They never brought them out because we were very compliant, and we were very, hey man, this is hemp. Explained to them all of the paperwork was in the packages. So the thing was they just didn't know how to read the paperwork.
Yeah.
And then how do you tell if the paperwork truly goes with the
What it
package,
is,
And so they spent a few hours with us. They allowed us to conduct business with our customers as normal.
Really?
And yes, they did. And we had the flour display out at the North Shore store, so it was, it was in the containers, and they were looking at it. And they did a lot of phone calls with the labs that had done the paperwork.
You had to know that day was going to come, though, right?
I mean, when you're ordering 60 pounds of flour through the mail, eventually it's going to happen, you know.
Yeah.
And there was no serious precautions. This was literally just a, giant Mylar bag stuffed in a regular box, and it had a hole in it. You know, and just, no, I don't think anybody was trying to go through our mail. I think literally some postal worker got a hole in it with a forklift or whatever happened. They looked in and looked like about 20 pounds of marijuana, so they did their job, man. And like I said again, there were at least a dozen officers in our store, and I mean they were the most courteous as they could have been. Some of them didn't necessarily agree with what was going on. Obviously they're kind of ruffled about, hey, looks like you're getting pot sent in, and I mean, that's what it looks like. I can't help that. And if you've ever actually sat down and spoken with any law enforcement that's out there that's actually working, beating the streets and doing it, they don't want to spend their time on cannabis. It's a wasted resource. The only people looking to incarcerate people over cannabis are the private prison systems. I mean, the police officers it's a wasted resource to them. They would much rather be spending their time on something big.
And they can't really continue to go after every hemp house and every seller in Chattanooga. They had to take your time as a learning opportunity and move on.
And learning opportunity to move on. They actually came back. They were doing an investigation, I guess, on somebody, and I think I wasn't there. I got the story secondhand from my manager, but I believe they came in and was asking her to see how we labeled our packaging, because he was packaging his marijuana like hemp and putting a COA with it and everything. And, and they were pretty confident that this guy was really selling marijuana. And it was I thought that was very cool. It was very humbling, interesting that they came in our store, as a hey, can you help us out with this? We have some questions, kind of thing. And that's that's really cool that they're trying to learn. And I mean, I don't think they're out there intentionally trying to bust anybody that's legit owning a business and legit trying to.
Did you ever see yourself owning a business? I mean, was that something you really set out to do, or was it this market presented itself, you loved it and went after it?
It was I never saw myself owning a business. I've always been a contracted employee, 1099. So technically I've owned a business, but that's just some paperwork. Me and my wife, I've always been very, very passionate about cannabis and all of its cannabinoids and forms. And, I looked at moving to places that have more liberal laws, and I'm just accustomed to a certain lifestyle, certain size house, certain size yard, and, to replicate that in some of those states, man, you need $1 million+ and then I'm jumping into a green rush industry that's saturated here, and I have no direct connections to, so it definitely wasn't a smart move. And that was actually when I started investigating with what can we do in Tennessee, and hooked up with a lot of people who were pushing for hemp laws, and just hooked up with the right people and met some of the hemp farmers that were growing for their first year and making some of their products, and it just kind of burst from there. It was actually at a Chattanooga Hemp History Week event.
Down at the library?
It was at the Edney Center.
Okay.
And we had went there, and me and a buddy who had 20+ acres of farmland up in Sweetwater went to this event to get all the information we could on how to be a hemp farmer. And when we were there, we met and talked to Harold Jarvie from Tennessee Homegrown, Ryan Rush, Cat Merrifield, all who I consider the OGs in the Tennessee hemp industry, and spoke to them and what they were doing, and saw how in my eyes how advanced and far along they were for the times. And started questioning on how they were, who was buying the product, where was it being sold at, and literally they were all online like nobody. So that was, I went home and started thinking, and that was, when you can find a need and then you can solve it, you can usually make something of it. And so, like I said, I talked to these people and saw that there was no direct stores that were selling their brands of hemp, and started diving in and saw there were a handful of hemp farmers with legit products and companies, and we linked up with 5 or 6 of them and started the first hemp house over in North Chattanooga. So
and you've expanded really quick too, huh?
Extremely quick, man. Quicker than I wanted to. I feel like I was not forced in a negative manner, but to keep up with the industry. Let's be honest, as we were the only player in Chattanooga in North Shore, and we got all the business. You had a couple of their stores, Grassroots, Alicia's awesome. Some of our clientele's not so comfortable going in that style of store setting. So we were reaching a totally different demographic than some of these other stores were getting to. And then, of course, for the first year, we were pretty much one of the only players around. We were pretty well known and did extremely well. But then, obviously, stores started opening in other places, and so we saw a little hit from that. Sales kind of didn't drop, but you started noticing, hey man, our daily sales are going down a little bit. We've got a few stores here and there. We're not the closest and easiest to get to. And so we knew we had to expand, and from there just started looking at where our customer base at, and it was Ottawa and North Georgia at the time, and Cleveland. Those were my three top runners, and we actually looked at a spot in Ottawa about, I guess now it's been about 16 months ago. And we're trying to get in there and couldn't agree on rent number, negotiations, the normal stuff you can't agree on. And we opened here, and then come to find out that same landlord reached back out to me, and we got it, at a even more discounted rate than we were trying to get it at before. So kind of worked itself out. The East Ridge location was 100% planned. We went into it, knowing what we were doing. We needed the extra office space. We needed the extra inventory space. We needed, a good home base. And then, just within a couple of months, Ooltewah presented itself, and it was one of those opportunist things that, probably don't need to do this right now. It's very, very soon, but we may not get this opportunity. And at the time, and still currently, Ooltewah is pretty much an untapped market. So we've got a good customer base out there as well.
So right now, you're the guy doing all the business paperwork, all the sourcing, all the contact, and all the hiring.
Gosh, man, no, we've got 9 employees. Yeah. So that's no small feat in itself.
But it seems like you're kind of super busy.
I'm just a face, Really, man. Each store has a manager, and they're awesome. The manager at this store runs all the post office work. She helps me run inventory. About the main thing I do is just stay in contact with the vendors, inventory, plan our events and plan things like that. I'm lucky enough to have
that's a good place to be.
It is, Like I said, we've got great staff and an excellent team that can handle the front of the house. I still like going up there and working, and I still fill in shifts every now and then because, like I said, like you, I love talking to the customers. That was something that, as an extrovert, I enjoy doing. I've never been in customer service. I've always been in construction where we can smoke cigarettes and cuss and wear tank tops and we don't have to worry about any of that stuff. So it's a complete 360 to me, but I enjoy it thoroughly. I really do. Especially, our demographic being an older demographic. I love getting some of these senior citizens in here.
That's always surprising to see. They're taking it on and trying it, but I guess pain requires that.
And they make up probably the largest demographic of our customer base. They really do. We set ourselves apart from some of the other stores in town just by choosing not to sell some of the paraphernalia, the pipes and things like that. And obviously don't have a problem
right
with
now,
that.
You don't see this now, but like the Hemp House, it is raising like a next generation because they're seeing the Hemp House in the community doing good things. So slowly we're breaking the stereotypes that we've been working against for years, and this hemp thing is a big thing for that.
That's definitely not Hemp House alone.
That's everybody.
It's a collaboration of
the people who are willing to try it.
Absolutely, and here in Chattanooga, man, we have some amazing hemp companies, hemp shops that would technically under classification, they're my competition, but I send people to Snapdragon Hemp, if they have something that we don't necessarily have or that I think will work for a customer, I have no problem with it. It's about building a community, it really is. We've got an open invitation coming up next Monday at the Edney for anybody interested to come out and help plan the what could be Hemp History Week event. That's one of the things that I'm very passionate about because Hemp House was literally birthed at this event, and it's been running 5-6 years now, and there's hemp events happening at the Choo Choo, at Miller Park. I mean, there's one there's a vape company doing a convention center that's advertising as a hemp.
It's pretty crazy.
It's super. So we've got this little small event that's grown each year. But we've got to get together and make sure we can still put it together because a lot of our vendors are going to be going to some of these other events and everybody gets stretched thin. So there's and the point of that is going back to our community. The Hemp History Week, it's where you're going to meet local Tennessee growers. It's where you're going to meet local Tennessee processors. Where you're going to meet a lot of Chattanooga people, and we have a good representation from Nashville. It's just it has that real hometown grassroots vibe feel to it, and it doesn't get lost in one of these big national events, which, like I said, there's hemp events popping up everywhere. I think World Hemp Expo is in Atlanta. You know what I mean?
Yeah. With all this happening, I mean, the politicians in Tennessee, when are we finally going to change it? Is it because they act like they don't know anything and don't see any of this happening, and it's almost just kind of like,
man, Chris, where we live. You know where we live. It's the Bible Belt. It's we've been fed there. The generation here is the one that bought into the reefer madness. And those are the politicians that are in office currently.
Yeah.
Tennessee's not a ballot state. that means me and you
Yeah.
are never going to get to check the box.
Yeah.
I feel like we get ripped off in that sense because
we would already won.
we'd already won.
Yeah.
It's, maybe not by a landslide, but we'd won.
Yeah.
But I think now, I haven't personally looked at any kind of polls because they're very generic on who they poll, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if we weren't at 55-60% statewide approval.
I mean, they're going to keep doing it every year until it passes. We just got lucky that this hemp bill was federal, or we'd still be.
Well, no, I definitely agree and kind of disagree with that. Tennessee, their hemp bill that they wrote in 2014 and continuously amended all the way up until 2017, 2018 was pretty awesome. And the way that happened was, I'm not for sure who wrote in the bill, but they consulted with the Department of Agriculture, who then consulted with the hemp farmers and said, what do you guys need? What's gonna help you? And so a lot of these guys, Clint Palmer, Ryan Rush, Kevin Colvert, Cody Seals, I know there's a few more I've forgotten, went and lobbied to the Department of Agriculture and to these legislators about, hey, we don't need to test, total THC. Delta 9 is the only thing we need to test. That separates us apart from Kentucky, North Carolina, all these other states is our testing rules. And that was put on by the farmers, because they did reach out. But they're not reaching out and asking how we feel about cannabis overall.
Yeah.
They made that decision. And part of me feels like some of them are like, hey guys, we gave you hemp.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Don't get an inch and take a mile. We gave you hemp, and that's what's going to keep us stagnant.
And that's kind of what I felt like with Bill Lee. I think that was pretty much exactly what he said. Was
Bill Lee's not gonna. Bill Lee is completely against medical marijuana, in any cannabis in any form. But he's not even for the medical side of it. And you're never going to convince him of recreational. You know. And that in itself is disappointing, because if you actually ask your constituents and your people what it is that they want, while overall would Tennessee vote on recreational? Probably not.
Yeah.
Medical, hands down. Everybody knows somebody who's been affected by cancer. Everybody knows somebody who's been affected by some kind of terminal disease.
We don't want them going to jail for trying to serve.
Exactly, man. And no matter how you believe that cannabis can help you in a medicinal way, whether it's just improving appetite, that's something.
Yeah.
If you're one of those that believe that cannabis oil can help cure cancer, that's great, and you should have that right to go down that path. And again, if you're one that says, hey, we're gonna do everything the doctor says, but I like to smoke a joint to get my appetite up, well, then what's wrong with that? Or get a good night's sleep. What's wrong with that? And my biggest thing I've often said, I'm not a big fan of dispensaries and taxes and all the stuff that comes along with the legalization. I'd be okay with just a decriminalization. If you just quit locking people
Me
up
too, yeah.
and ruining life. Let's be honest, man. I haven't had a problem getting cannabis in the last decade. So I don't need a dispensary to go buy it from. I just need to know that during that process, I'm not going to go to jail.
And I've always enjoyed the old culture of, the way cannabis sold in the day. There's a grower somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and if they do, we would. Lots of people ask, if they make it legal, are you gonna? Sure, of course. Why wouldn't we? Just if you visited Colorado lately, and it may have even been this way back when you lived there, I'm not for sure, but the CBD and hemp stores are completely separate from dispensaries. They cannot cross paths at all.
Yeah, medical and recreational.
No, CBD.
Oh yeah.
So if you had a hemp house in downtown Denver, it's really weird how they explain it to me there. So, but it may not be weird since you lived there before. You know how they are. If you worked at the hemp house in Denver, you're good. Yeah. THC's legal. Everything is fine. No problem. But and obviously you're just a hemp house, you can't sell THC cannabis because you're not that licensed or whatever. But if you go in a dispensary, the workers there, they can't even have hemp chapstick personally on them.
Oh wow.
And it's I guess it's because they could contaminate it in some way, and somebody could look at the label and not know as I don't know, but they were very, very strict because I was just asking.
Yeah,
when we were
even
there.
as a patient and a licensed worker, they didn't want me bringing my medicine in on me.
Right, that makes sense.
But hemp that's different.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man, totally. I was very blind, and it made sense after the fact. But like, no, you can't. You can buy 1-to-1s ratios, but you can't buy a CBD only processed from hemp in a dispensary.
That's kind
period.
of odd.
Yeah, and I guess that like I said, if they were to cross it with THC and somebody, the label just as hemp, maybe I don't know, but yeah, it was I thought it was very odd, but it also made sense for Colorado too. For the way some of their laws are. So it was, but we're coming down that path, and if Tennessee ever does, get up with it, of course, Hemp House will, we'll have a can of house or whatever.
We're all looking forward to it.
Everybody is, and like I said, I definitely support the decriminalization of cannabis in all forms. Obviously the government doesn't want you running, over to California and picking up 50 pounds and bringing it back here,
right.
For tax purposes. But if you, figured that out too, I mean, there's guys that I know that would pay their taxes on it for no problem.
For sure,
what I mean? If you said, hey man, fill out a form, you're going to go pick up 50 pounds of marijuana from Colorado or California and drive it back here and sell it out.
Pay the interstate tax.
Pay the taxes. I mean, but I guess that would be a dispensary. So
yeah, because I'd rather pay the cost than pay the jail time. You know what I'm saying? But speaking of which, have you heard of the Spencer Boston kid that smoked a joint out in court?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So when he got pulled over, even the cop said, "Look, I don't even want to arrest you for this. I don't want to do anything with it, but it's the law. I have to." And then when he got to the court, the judge told him, "Hey, I don't really want to do anything for you with it, but this is the law. I have to." So. It's kind of crazy, like even in our culture we see recorded police officers and judges saying, hey, I don't want to prosecute you for this, but this is my job and this is the law and this is what I have to do. It's kind of, we really need to,
We got to change those laws when you have the people that are enforcing them or letting you know that, and not all laws are just, and, I may not be 100%, but most law enforcements have discretion. You know what I mean? Like, you have some discretion. I have personally seen them stomp out, 8 quarter bags of marijuana, and because hey man, I don't want to lock you up for this or whatever it is, and go on about your day. Here's your speeding ticket. So, I feel like the officer always had that discretion. Like, I don't want to do this, but I have to. Well, not really. The other thing that we have that's not so popular or not so well known is jury nullification. That's a huge thing, and that's letting a jury know if you feel this law is not just, you do not have to convict. Most of the time that is used in drug cases, specifically cannabis cases. And that's what I would recommend to anybody. Now, are they going to let you go to jury trial for possession of a joint? Probably not. They're just going to dismiss it and let it go. But, to anybody who's facing a felony charge, I would, and I'd tell my attorney, hey, we're going that I was guilty, but we're aiming for jury nullification. You know what I mean? We just need 1 or 2 people to say, hey, cannabis should be legal, and I don't have to convict, and you're good. But it's hard to make that decision, especially if you're sitting on the other side of that seat and you don't know what you're facing, especially if you're not familiar with how the system works. It's easy said sitting over here.
So. All right, so when the young man gets pulled over and he's got, I guess they're like an 1/8 or a quarter or something in there. I mean, he didn't have to say anything, right? He could have, I
haven't followed I didn't follow why he was even in court for.
He got pulled over doing 80 and a 55, and the police officer asked him if he had any marijuana, and he said, yeah, I got this, and pulled it out of the dash, and it was just like, you can be in a position as a citizen to make the police officers prove that it's marijuana, right?
Yes. Yes. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm not an attorney. In the state of Tennessee, anything under a half ounce, if you push it, they're not going to push it up to be tested because it's not worth it.
Yeah.
So if you got caught with a quarter bag, if you just said, hey, you got to prove it, which is your job anyways, they're not going to put that kind of money and effort into proving on a quarterback.
I wish I didn't have to be an ass like that and just kind of mess with them and say, prove it. What I'm saying?
And here's the thing is, I've been in these situations before, and the police officer always says, just be honest with me, and I can respect your honesty, and it doesn't sound like it.
Yeah.
It's a prime example of, you ask the gentleman, do you have any marijuana? And he was honest with you.
Yeah.
And, you know, you could have respected that and said, you're not allowed to have this. I'm going to take it with me. And, you know, you need to slow your ass down. Here's a ticket for, you know, doing 30 miles over, you know, speed limit. You know, but yeah, that sucks. And it puts that you know, border between police officer and citizens. You know what I mean? Like, it's a victimless crime. First of all, we're victimless crime.
Yeah.
Second of all, you know, you're talking about less than a half ounce. So you're talking about a misdemeanor cannabis charge. And I mean, even if you mean the guy in the video, he looks pretty young. I don't know how old he is, but let's just say he bought an ounce.
Yeah.
Well, now he's looking at a felony.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, you know, by lighting the joint up in the courtroom, he's not too worried. But still, what if he was in college? You know, and he just caught this felony, and he's in, you know, MTSU or something, and you know, it sucks.
And then employers and all that. And,
it's all public now.
Yeah.
You know, with social media, the just busted, all that. You can't hide, you know, getting arrested anymore at all. And so that's you can definitely ruin somebody's life.
So how is this whole thing coming out for you? Because I mean, even with me and having a regular job and talking about doing a hemp podcast, I kind of feel back. I don't want to do it, but you know what I'm saying, this is something I love. I just kind of have to do it. But you know, it's almost kind of like all of a sudden I have to do this publicly and openly in a place, in a police state. You know,
but it helps bring awareness first and foremost. You know what I mean? That's one thing, is it brings awareness. The other things I tell anybody interested, you know, in the industry, and that's the cannabis industry. Follow your passions, man. See where you fit in. You know, get in where you fit in. See where you can fit in. I started this thing planning to be a farmer. You know what I mean? After talking to a few farmers, I was like, oh, wow, I don't want to do that job. You know, and I knew that that's not where my skill set lied.
When I look at you, I know my skill set does not lie in running these stores.
Sure,
you know
and that's why, you know. For instance, we don't have a Hemp House branded product.
Yeah.
You know, we put our label on flour just for packaging purposes, but we don't have a Hemp House tincture.
Yeah.
Stay in my lane. You know, I've got some amazing people in Tennessee that make fantastic tincture that I purchase and use. You know what I mean? I'm not going to make one and try to go up against that. You know, I don't have time, the energy to focus, you know, on developing that kind of stuff. And kind of the same with them. You don't see some of these, you know, you don't see Cat's Naturals Hemp House. You don't see a Smoky Mountain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, they're focusing on what they're good at, which is product development, growing, and all that. So there's room in the industry for everybody. I think, you know, the ones that are trying to take on, you know, and that's with any industry. It doesn't have to be cannabis related.
Right.
But when you try to overstep and take on too much, you get stretched thin. It doesn't mean you won't succeed, you know, but it just means, you know, you're probably going to have a bunch of hurdles trying to get there, and headaches. And I mean, you know, running 3 stores, I'm not ever going to say it's a headache, because I'm 100% living, you know, my dream next to actually having THC cannabis. You know, this is it for me. This is what I've aspired to do for most of my life. Is be in the cannabis, and not you know, on a retail store, but be in the cannabis industry in whatever form that I found myself in. I just happened to land in a pretty good role. It was just good timing, you know, being in the right place. Very lucky to have a wife who at the time had a job that could, you know, support me while I did this, or support us and make sure we were good while I tried to make sure this was going to work. And, you know, we're in her office now, so she's obviously left that job to work here. So it's, you know, it's worked out pretty good. That was pretty huge. You know, when I was able to convince her, hey, you can quit your job and you know, come work at Hemp House, and she, you know, you were asking earlier all the stuff I do. You know, she got an armful of tasks, man. You know, she is the, you know, awesome administrative assistant, what she calls herself. But she's my backbone as far as handling all the paperwork and all that stuff that you were talking about, because it gets overwhelming trying to do it all and maintain everything else at the same time. So she's definitely a huge part of the team. And that was, like I said, that was a huge accomplishment as a as a male and a husband to be able to say, hey, you can, you quit your job. I need you to come work for me, but you can still
Yeah,
quit.
of course,
You can still
yeah.
quit your job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can't just stay at home just yet. But and that was huge because that was our backbone. If this didn't work out, she was still in the legal field, and we didn't have to. We were okay. I could jump back in construction and get right on it. So
the family business is kind of like a real American dream.
Man, it is. It is, and it's not anything I ever knew that I was a dream of mine. Owning a business, but being able to bring her in, work closely with some of my friends. I've got friends that grow hemp now, and so being able to talk to them about it and stuff, it makes it's a lot. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It really is. Everything that I do brings joy to me. And there's not a lot of people that get to say that they wake up on Monday morning going, you know what I mean? Let's get to it today. And that's I go to bed Sunday night going, let's go. I'm ready for Monday, just because I love doing this shit.
Well, congratulations. I think that's a great note to end on, and just anybody else out there, put in the work.
Put in the work,
live
man.
the dream.
If you've got a dream, it doesn't have to be in the cannabis industry. It can be whatever, but this industry itself is wide open right now. You've got testers, you've got growers, you've got tons of people. There's one of the farms we work with. The lady went to school to be a dirt scientist basically, and now she's a cannabis farmer, and she grows some of the best stuff because she literally has a PhD in dirt science. So
yeah, dirt is a weak point for mine.
Well, it's I know you got know urban horticulture. They're great teaching classes. They just had one last Saturday, how to build your own dirt. I mean, that's what I love about this, man. Everybody's reaching out to help somebody.